Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Dodi. Today we are going to cook a cheesecake for you guys. This is a classic cheesecake recipe. It's one of the tastiest that I've ever had, and I hope that you try to make it soon and let us know how it turns out for you. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is put our graham crackers in our machine here so we can grind these up very finely. I'm just going to pulse them a few times. We're going to get them very ground because these are going to be the base of our crust. And we're going to do enough of these until we get 2 cups of ground graham crackers. Alright, so what I did there is I just pulsed it and it got it mostly chopped up. I still see some chunks in there, so I'm going to do another chop. This one has a chop feature, but it's just kind of pulsing it every few seconds to get it ground. Okay, so I used 1½ sleeves of graham crackers to get this 2 cups of ground graham crackers. This is where you can become very creative. I've done this with Oreo cookies, where you can ground up Oreo cookies and have those as your base. I've done it with nuts. If you want to do like a cashew nut base, you could put some cashews in here and grind those up, or pecans, anything that you want to put as your base and just make it more creative. Now's a good time to do that. So we're going to mix up our crust first and put it in the oven to cook, and then we'll move on to the filling. Let's talk pans for just a minute. This one is called a springform pan. It has a lever here that when you pull it, the bottom will drop out so that you can easily remove something around the sides of a cake. Now I have put a piece of parchment, cut a piece of parchment paper to put in here because when a graham cracker crust is the base layer, it doesn't exactly want to slide out even like a regular pie crust would. So this one lets you transfer it if you want to transfer it to a serving platter or something like that, so that you don't have to use your whole springform pan base to move it with. So I've lined my pan, and the first thing I'm going to do is combine my crushed ingredients. So I've got my 2 cups of crushed graham cracker crumbs. These also come already crushed in a box if you don't want to crush them ahead of time. And then I have 6 tablespoons of butter. I've gone ahead and melted our butter, so I'm going to add that. You can use unsalted, but you guys know me. If you've been watching my videos, I do salted, even though I'm going to add a pinch of salt here as well. And it just means you don't need to add as much salt. So I'm just going to do not quite 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is about a pinch of salt. And then I have 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, if you're looking to cut carbs, they do have some substitute sugars that work really well with this. This is regular sugar, but you could always do a substitute here. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And again, if you want to leave the cinnamon out or do some other options like an Oreo crust, this would be a great time to go ahead and think of some of those other options. One of the ones that I like to do is a caramel cashew cheesecake. And at this stage, I would put ground cashews in with the graham cracker crust. And that way it kind of gives you that cashew flavor. And then on top of that, before you layer your cashew, you would put some caramel, and then you decorate it on top as well. So it makes a really nice, interesting crust if you add different ingredients or substitute some. So this one has the graham cracker crumbs, the sugar, the butter, the salt, and the cinnamon. So once that's all combined, we are going to put it in the base of this pan. And that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to put it in the base of our pan here. Okay. And then we're just going to press it flat up against some of the edges. And some people use a bowl for this, or a cup or a mug that has a flat bottom on it. However you want to do it so where it gets nice and flat on the bottom of your crust. You don't want it to look like it has lots of mountains and hills in it. You want it fairly smooth and even along the bottom so that it cooks even. We are going to put this in our oven at 350 degrees for 10 minutes just to firm it up and get it slightly browner than it already is. And then we'll let that cool before we put our other filling ingredients on top of it and put it back in the oven. So right now this is pretty flat, and I'm going to put it in our oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. Alright guys, for our ingredients for the filling, we're going to start with 4 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese. Those are room temperature, and 4 eggs, also room temperature. We have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. We have 1 cup of heavy cream, 1 cup of sour cream, and 1 1/3 cups of sugar. And then we're going to add a pinch of salt. So we're going to get these combined in a certain order. So here we go. Okay, I've added our cream cheese, the 4 blocks, they are 8 ounces each of cream cheese, to our bowl. I'm going to go ahead and lock this in and start mixing this. It's going to mix for 4 to 5 minutes until it's very creamy and smooth. We want this to be room temperature because otherwise this would take a really long time for it to get smooth and creamy. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to bump up the speed a little bit and let it go for 4 to 5 minutes. While the filling is just starting to mix up, the crust is ready. It baked for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. I've wrapped the pan in foil. I put about 3 layers of foil on it to prevent any water from getting in, because we're going to put water in another pan that it's going to sit in and give it a water bath. The water bath method is something that helps it to cook evenly all the way around. Things like cheesecake, that you want to try to help prevent cracking as much as you can. And the other thing we did was reduce our temperature in the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit from 350. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes beating the cream cheese a little smoother. So now we're going to add our 1 1/3 cups of sugar. And I'm going to add this in and going to beat it another 4 to 5 minutes until it gets all the sugar incorporated and it gets nice and smooth. Alright, so our sugar and cream cheese have blended well, and I'm just adding the remaining ingredients. So we have this small 8-ounce container, or 1 cup of sour cream. And we're going to add our 1 cup of heavy cream and our vanilla extract. We've added our other ingredients now that our sugar and cream cheese is blended. I added the sour cream and the heavy cream because it's very liquidy. If I turned on the beater right now, it would splatter it everywhere. So I'm just going to kind of stir those in, give them a nice stir till I feel like it's safe enough that I can turn the beater on low. It's looking really delicious. The secret here is you don't want a chunky cheesecake. You want to have it nice and creamy. So the creamier the better. It gives it that nice whipped, lush, creamy texture that you're looking for. So that's why we're taking so much time to blend each of the ingredients and really blend them together until it's just a very nice, creamy consistency. All right. So I feel like I might be safe enough to turn this on just at a very low speed. We'll try it and see. There we go. All right, so it's going to blend just for a minute, get everything incorporated, and then we're going to add our eggs one at a time. All right, let's go ahead and add our eggs. Oh, and our pinch of salt. Let's do our pinch of salt first. All right, so we've got our salt in here. And give that just a quick mix. All right, now let's do our eggs one at a time. Okay. I'm gonna let this one blend, scrape my spoon. I'm gonna blend this one at a time. And while that's on, I'm gonna pour in 1 more egg. one more. And our last egg. So I'm going to let that get good and creamy. Make sure I don't see any of the egg mixture streaking in there. Make sure it's all fully incorporated. And then we'll pour it in our pan. Okay, so our mixture is nice and creamy. It's all mixed up. You can see just how creamy and dreamy that looks. We're going to pour this into our cooled crust here, but one thing I did just before I poured it is I reserved about 3 tablespoons of the cheesecake mixture off to the side. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that in just a minute. First, let's go ahead and pour the remaining mixture in our pan. This looks very creamy, very nice. This is probably, I think it's about a 10-inch round springform pan. Again, you could do this with smaller pans. It doesn't have to be a springform pan. You could do it with lots of little pans if you'd like to do that, to have individual cheesecakes. And this one just looks really nice. So I'm gonna just kind of drop it just slightly to try to get a few of the air bubbles out. Let them rise to the surface because I want my texture when you cut through it to be very, very smooth. So that looks pretty smooth to me. Now, with our remaining batter, I have some food coloring, and Valentine's Day is coming up. So I'm going to add a few drops of kind of a red or pink food coloring to our batter. Stir that in, and it gives us a nice kind of pinkish reddish color. You could add more drops if you want it more red, or less drops if you want it more pink or blue or green or whatever colors you want. And I'm going to attempt to freestyle a heart here in the middle of our cheesecake. So I'm going to start with one glob here, and one beside it, and one in the middle, and kind of bring that down a little bit. And I'm going to use my spoon to make a heart shape. This can be as big or as little as you like. But it just kind of makes it fun, and it all bakes in together, so it looks like it was just baked in, and not any kind of design that you have to add afterwards. You don't have to add any extra design on that. And now I'm just going to kind of make it a little thicker so that that pink kind of melts down inside, so when you cut it you can see that pink heart through the cheesecake. So I'm going to kind of stab it down in there and work out toward, from the middle out toward the edges. Now I've done this in the past for my son, for I think it was his 2nd birthday. We wanted kind of a less sugary option as far as your traditional cake and icing, and we did it with replacement sugar, and I made it look like an Elmo, the character Elmo on the cheesecake. So you can really freeform any style that you want, but then that way we have a little piece, and I'll get that up in just a minute, but we have a nice little heart in the middle of our pan. So, all right, so before I put this in the oven, I'm going to give it the water bath. I don't want to pour this anywhere on my cheesecake itself. It's going to go between the foil and the outside edge of another pan. This doesn't have to be a round pan. It can be a square pan or any pan that you have, so long as this fits down nicely inside of it and you have enough room to add the water. And I'm only going to add the water about 1/3 of the way up the pan, so that it doesn't slosh over or get anywhere near the edge of the top of this pan. So I only filled it about 1/3 of the way up on the pan, and I'm gonna let it go in the oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for about 1 hour and 40 to 1 hour and 50 minutes. All right, our cheesecake has been cooking for 1 hour and 40 minutes. It's looking great. I did put a little tint of foil over the top of it, just the last 10 minutes or so, so it wouldn't brown too much. You can see our cute little heart design is right there on the cheesecake. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and turn off the oven and let it sit in here for another hour without the oven being on, just so it can cool down in a nice slow pace, and that will allow it to hopefully not crack. All right, our cheesecake has cooked for 1 hour and 45 minutes, and then it cooled in the oven for 1 hour. It's still a little warm to the touch, but look, no cracks. So our water bath worked, and letting it cool down in the oven for 1 hour helped as well. So far we have a nice smooth cheesecake. We got our cute little heart in the center there. When I pull it out of the water bath, I put it on a towel because this foil will hold some water in the folds, and so I just put a towel under it to catch all of that. As soon as it gets a little bit more room temperature, because it's still a little bit warm, then I will put it in the refrigerator overnight or for 4 hours to chill it before we serve it. So we'll see you guys in about 4 hours or more. All right, here is our final product. I took a knife, a clean knife, and ran it along the edges and then opened up the pan. We've got a nice, beautiful cheesecake. All right, here is our perfect piece of cheesecake. It's very tasty. You can see here where we cut it, where the heart was. It came out perfectly good and oh so yummy. Let's give it a try. That is so creamy, so delicious. It is really the best cheesecake you will ever eat. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment down below what you'd like to see us cook next. See you next time.